Hello. Today we will be talking about bias. What do I want to say about this? Well, there's really two things I want to say. One is I want to go through the nature of bias, and two, I want to go about arguing with bias in mind. So, first of all, everything is biased. Everyone is biased. There is no unbiased source. Every single action, everything you see, everything you do or have done to you affects and influences you. No one is unbiased. Criminal sentencing is affected by when in the day it's done and how close it is to lunch. Your opinions and thoughts are biased by what language you're speaking in because of the cultural context that they exist in. Science is biased because of the fact that you get famous by discovering new things, not by replicating old studies and making sure they're correct. So there's a lot of problems when it comes to p-hacking, verification, and just slightly dodgy stuff in that way. Humanity is not reasonable nor logical. Everything we touch is not reasonable nor logical, including computers to a certain degree. Never declare that you are unbiased. Acknowledge you're biased. Strive to do better. Because if you do declare you're unbiased, then there's no reason for you to change your mind. There's no way you could be wrong. The only way you could be wrong is if your information is wrong. But if you're unbiased, you will always be right given the right information. But we're human, and that is rarely the case. You need to acknowledge that you're human and that you can get things wrong. Because thinking that you're the one with the rational, logical, and unbiased argument is a very, very dangerous slope to go down, argument-wise. And this is the second part of what I wanted to say. Bias should not be an avenue to disqualify an argument. You should never say, because this comes from a liberal bias source, I don't believe it. This comes from a conservative bias source. I don't believe it. No, that isn't how you should do it, because that is pretty much the fallacy. Just because something involves the fallacy doesn't mean it is instantly disqualifies the argument. It just disqualifies that the one that uses the fallacy. It doesn't disprove the entire thing. Same thing with bias. Because you have to look at it and think, why? Why is this not right? You can't just go and just discard it. You can't go, oh, this person is biased in this way, therefore they're wrong. You can go, this person, by saying this, these are not correct, and therefore this argument is not correct. You cannot go, these facts are biased, therefore it's wrong. You can't tone police people. You can't go, you're angry, you're involved in this, you are personally involved in this, you are biased, therefore you're wrong. However, in that case, they're probably going to mess up their argument because they're getting pissed off. And then that's just easy holes in their argument, usually. But never, ever use bias as a reason to discard an argument. And it's really weird because, for me, the idea of bias in arguments is a really recent thing. I mean, like 10 years ago, the only cases where you hear people talking about bias and like widespread bias are either scientific contexts or Fox News and Conservapedia talking about the overwhelming liberal bias of the mainstream media and other things. But it's become mainstream to talk about bias in this way. And like everything wants to be biased and balanced and all this. And I'll talk about balance at some other point. But I'm really concerned about why bias has come into the spotlight, because it's not the right use of it. People are using it as a way to get out of arguments instead of examining why this argument is bad. It's not contributing to people's logical reasoning skills at all. It really pisses me off. I just don't understand. Oh wait, sorry. I do understand why. Because we're human. Because we need logical shortcuts in our brain. Otherwise, we couldn't process everything. And that which worked for hundreds of thousands of years ago when we were doing everything, like survival-wise, it was a really good help to be able to just do this just works. But in the modern society, with all the changing natures of the world and everything else, it just doesn't just doesn't work the same anymore. But yeah. Long story short, everything's biased. Don't say you're unbiased. Don't use bias as a way of getting out of an argument. Yeah. See you guys next week.